Victoria Bonaquista, and we are doing day 5 of our Proverbs a Day challenge. So I am so excited to get in and do chapter 5 with you today. Chapter 5 is a bit of a hard one, so I'm actually going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to go ahead and read the chapter, but when I talk and break it down, I'm going to word it a little differently. This is a personal thing that I like to do when it comes to hard chapters like this. Let's go ahead and get started, and we will see where God leads us. My son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow thine ear to my understanding, that thou mayest regard discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge. For the lips of a strange woman drop as a honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil, and her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps take hold on hell. Lest thou shouldest ponder the path of life. Her ways are movable, that thou canst not know them. Hear me now, therefore, O ye children, and depart not from the word of my mouth. Remove thy way far from her, and come not nigh to the door of her house. Lest thou give thine honor unto others, and thy years unto the cruel. Lest strangers be filled with thy wealth, and thy labors be in the house of a stranger. And thou mourn at the last, when thy flesh and thy body are consumed, and say, How have I hated instruction, and my heart despiseth reproof. And have not obeyed the voice of my teachers, nor inclined my ear to them that instructed me. I was almost in all evil in the midst of the congregation and assembly. Drink waters out of thine own cistern, and running waters out of thine own well. Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, and rivers of waters in the streets. Let them be only thine own, and not strangers with thee. Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth. Let her be as the loving hind and pleasant roe, and let her breast satisfy thee all the times, and be thou ravished always with her love. And why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman, and embrace the bosom of a stranger? For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord, and he poureth all his goings. His own iniquities shall take the wicked himself, and he shall be holden with the cords of his sin. He shall die without instruction, and in the greatness of his folly he shall go astray. Short, but very impactful. Well, that was short, but very impactful. Okay, so we're going to do this 2 ways. For the lips of a strange woman drop as a honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil. But if you think about it this way, for the lips of a man drop as a honeycomb, and his mouth is smoother than oil. So I'm going to kind of read it back and forth for the boys and for the girls, because sometimes girls, especially when you read this, you're like, well, I'm not worried about her having the mouth of a honeycomb, but then they somehow get involved with a narcissistic man. And it's the same principle for men and for women. But I think maybe hearing it both ways might help kind of build a better picture of what Solomon is trying to get across when people behave like this. But her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. But his end is bitter as wormwood, and sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps take hold on hell. But his feet go down to death. His feet take hold on hell. Lest thou shouldest ponder the path of life. Her ways are movable, that thou canst not know them. His ways are movable, that thou canst not know them. People are seductive and narcissistic, and when you first meet them, they are charming and persuasive, and they say all the right things. This is a very dangerous person, and one of the things that we want to remember is that actions speak louder than words. If their actions are not matching up with their words, then they're most likely not telling you the truth. They're not being truthful, and they are being one of the people that Solomon is warning us against, and that God is ultimately warning us against, to not be involved with the type of people who are just sweet talking and, they say all the right things, but their actions don't show that they're genuine or sincere. Hear me now, therefore, O ye children, and depart not from the words of my mouth. Remove thy way far from her house, and come not nigh to the door of her house, lest thou give thine honor unto others, and lest thy years unto the cruel. If you think about it this way, when you take a partner who is not your spouse, you are giving away your honor, and you are giving up those years, and ultimately in the end, you're going to get hurt by it. The outcome is not going to be good. You came to say hi, baby. Hi. Hi. Lest strangers be filled with thy wealth, and thy labors be in the house of a stranger. That's kind of a cool one, because when you're building something for yourself, you're doing it for your home and for your family. But if you're just giving yourself over to one person, and then they need help with this, and they need help with that, and they need you to go do this, and there are all those different things that you do for that person, those are all in vain, because you are not building a life with that person. You are just letting them use your time. They're taking advantage of you. Even if they say they love you and everything, you're not being able to build for your life. So you're giving your life, you're giving your time away to a strange person who is not going to be the helper that God created for you. And now mourn at the last, when thy flesh and thy body are consumed, and say, how have I hated instruction, and my heart despised reproof. As a Christian, we are going to have that guilt of, this was the wrong decision, this was a bad thing, and the Holy Spirit is going to reproach us. And there are times that we will hate that reproach. I know personally for me, there have been plenty of times of that where I thought, I want to do this. This is what everybody else is doing. It looks fun. And I did it. And I didn't listen to what God said. And now years later, I think, why did I do that? That was so stupid. I chide myself for knowing the truth and not listening and blatantly ignoring it. So I just want to encourage you, if that's something you're doing right now where you know the truth, you know what you're doing is wrong, and it's okay to step away from that person and say, you know what, I am going to save myself. I am going to not live in sin. And it's okay to do that. And it's very hard. It's very hard. But if you think about it, God is saying that lifestyle leads to nothing. It leads to emptiness and then eventually death. But walking in his ways, you'll be fulfilled. Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth. Let her be as the loving hind and pleasant roe, and her breast satisfy thee all the times, and be thou ravished always by her love. Let him be as the loving hind and pleasant roe. Let his body satisfy thee all the times, and be thou ravished always with his love. Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice in the husband of thy youth. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to find them when you're young. That means that when you find them, you are going to be youthful again. What it's saying here is, when you have a husband and the person you're supposed to be with, let yourself be satisfied with that. Don't look to other places for satisfaction. Look to your husband, look to your wife for your satisfaction. And why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman, and embrace the bosom of a stranger? And why wilt thou, my daughter, be ravished with a strange man, and embrace the bosom of a stranger? Now, he's not necessarily saying that you won't know the person, like you're literally going out and meeting and sleeping with a stranger, although that does happen, so I will reproach you against that. It's not wise. But what he's saying is you want to be known to your husband or wife in a committed sense, that you have a covenant between you and that person. You are not just choosing to love your flesh and love yourself over loving the other person. Her own iniquities shall take the wicked herself, and she shall be holden with the cords of sin, and shall die without instruction, and in the greatness of her folly she shall go astray. The ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord, and he poureth all his goings. His own iniquities shall take the wicked himself, and he shall be holden with the cords of his sin. He shall die without instruction, and in the greatest of his folly he shall go astray. He's talking to us as his children, that if we continue to walk blatantly in sin, it leads us to a path of destruction. And even if that person says that they love you and they're going to take care of you, but they're not willing to commit to being with you in marriage, that is not a person that you should be with. And even if you're saving yourself and you're not choosing to sleep with them, but their actions are not matching up with their words, if they're saying, oh yeah, you know, I want to get married and all of this is great, but they're not holding down a job and they're not committing to be able to give you a good life and provide for you or make a home for you. I can't stress enough to look at their actions, to see their behaviors and not just listen to their words, because God says their words are sweet like a honeycomb, but ultimately it's going to lead to death. It's going to lead to destruction. And the Lord is trying so hard to get us as his children to understand the extreme suffering that we will go through if we walk in this way of living in sin and giving our life and our body to someone who is not our spouse. So I just really want you to think about that as we go through our day today. And I know that this chapter was a little different, short, hard. I am happy to answer any questions or comments that you guys have. Please go ahead and leave those. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And in the words of our Savior, go and sin no more.